Hey, it's late. I should probably be asleep, but my brain is doing that thing again, replaying conversations, overthinking texts, wondering if I said too much or not enough, wondering if I should have just stayed quiet, or if I should have said more, or I should have just not caught feelings in the first place. So I'm leaving this message for you, for me, for anyone who has ever loved with an anxious heart, for anyone who's ever sat in bed refreshing their messages, rereading the last thing they sent, wondering if they were too much or not enough or both, somehow at the same time. This voicemail has been emotionally compromised. And tonight we're talking about anxious attachment, avoidant lovers, and the messy, beautiful, terrifying work of loving while healing. So you're probably sitting there thinking, Rayanne, what is attachment and what is attachment styles? So let's start with the basics. Attachment theory is about how we bond, how we connect, how we seek closeness, and how we respond when the relationships start to feel slightly uncertain. It was first developed by John Bowlby, a British psychologist who studied how children form bonds with their caregivers. He believed attachment isn't just emotional, but it's biological, and it's wired into our survival instincts. So from birth, we looked for safety, for someone who will respond when we cry, who will soothe us when we're scared, and if those early needs are met consistently when we're a baby, we grow up with the inner sense that the world and our relationships are safe places, and Bowlby called that a secure base. But when we grow up where the care is inconsistent or unpredictable, like many of us have with childhood traumas and exceptional childhood disadvantages, our systems begin to adapt. We as children learn to chase, to cling, to withdraw, or to shut down. We develop strategies to stay connected to our caregivers even when those connections hurt. And those early adaptations don't just disappear when we grow up. They follow us into adulthood, into the way we text, the way we fight, the way we fall in love, into the tiny aches in your stomach when someone takes too long to respond to a text. Bowlby stated that there are 4 main attachment styles: secure attachment, anxious, and disorganized. And tonight, in this voicemail, I'm going to focus on the anxious and avoidant attachment, because I believe that's where things tend to get complicated. The anxious attachment, then, someone like me, are the overthinkers, the overfeelers, the ones who crave closeness but fear abandonment. We want reassurance, connection, and safety, but we're also terrified that it will never last. The avoidants on the opposite side, then, are the ones that crave independence over intimacy. They pull away when things get too close, shut down when emotions get too loud, and they fear being engulfed, controlled, consumed, so they protect themselves with distance. And somehow the universe keeps bringing the anxious and the avoidant together. It's kind of a sick joke at this point, I believe. I understand now that I was never too emotional. It was that my nervous system was doing everything in its power and everything it was designed to do to protect the connection, to protect the relationship. Sometimes I sit and I think that attachment styles are a third love language that we don't talk about, but it's a love language shaped by survival. The anxious love language says, don't leave me. The avoidant one says, don't trap me. And the secure one says, I'm safe here. And for so many of us, we never learned to understand that love language. We try to translate love through the dialect of fear. And that's really where many of our stories in love begin. So let's talk from the perspective of the person with the anxious heart. I realized that all the theory I've read was living inside of me. Every unanswered text message, every anxious scroll through a chat thread, every over-explained paragraph that I sent to a friend or a loved one that started with, sorry, I just wanted to clarify, was my attachment style speaking. It wasn't logic, it wasn't my personality, it was my nervous system. So when I say I have an anxious attachment style, I don't mean it in a cute, self-aware, internet quiz kind of way. I mean, this is how I learned to survive love. I over-explain. I spiral when people don't text back. I reread messages like they're sacred texts. I feel everything loudly, deeply, and all at once. I will send voice notes to my friends and family that start with, "Sorry this is long," and end with, "You don't have to reply, I just needed to say it." And I used to think that made me broken, dramatic, or clingy, but now I understand it just means I care. It means that I learned somewhere along the way in my life that love could leave and love will always leave me, and that a connection with someone would vanish, and that their silence meant that our relationship was in danger. So now, when I care about someone, my nervous system goes into overdrive. I automatically want to fix things. I automatically want to make the relationship feel safe, and I want to make sure that I'm not going to be abandoned again. And the thing is, knowing all this about myself, I keep finding myself drawn to avoidant people. The people that are emotionally unavailable, allergic to vulnerability, and disappear when things get real in a relationship. It's like my anxiety, my anxious heart is a magnet for their silence. I will hear them say, "I need space," and I will interpret it as, "I'm leaving." They'll say to me, "I am not ready for something serious," and I'll hear it as, "You're too much." They will pull away from me and I'll chase them. They'll go quiet and I'll get louder. And suddenly, the relationship has gone from loving each other to reenacting each other's trauma. I can't tell you how many times I've mistaken anxiety for chemistry. When you get that little rush when someone finally texts back and it feels like relief, but it's actually my nervous system and body calming down from the panic I've been walking around with every day. And that isn't love, that is my nervous system crashing and wrapping itself in a disguise of romance. Because the reassurance isn't consistent, you don't get to rest. You're always on high alert and you're always scanning the other person's messages, their body languages, for signals of safety. And that is exhausting, not just emotionally, but physically, to have your body wrapped in tension. I will sit and my body is in a nervous state. I will sit tense. I will sit hunched because I'm consistently waiting for that other person to message back, for my phone to get the notification so the attention can release from me. And if you ever have done that, and if you ever sit there and think, yeah, that is so me, I sit anxiously waiting for a reply from someone you love, just know you are not crazy. You are craving stability in a world that has taught you that your love is conditional. You have learned somewhere along the way that the love you receive has conditions on it, is transactional, has terms on it. And you're consistently trying to navigate that. You say things, you want to be open, you want to be loud, you want to be honest with those who you love, which we all should be. We all should be honest with people. But for us, that doesn't feel safe because we constantly are met with people that take our honesty, take our words, take our love, take our care as personal attack. And when you're dealing with that and you have that framework in your mind, you're constantly living on the edge of tension. And for the avoidant, their experiences are the exact opposite. Here's what I've learned about avoidant people. Avoidant people want love deeply, despite the fact that everything about them and everything about their behavior will tell you something different. They want to be loved. They want to be in love. They've just learned that love isn't safe, that being known means being vulnerable, and vulnerability doesn't feel safe for them. Often for avoidant people, when they were a child, possibly when they needed something from their main caregivers, it was ultimately met with cruelty, harshness, severity. And for them, then, the internal working model and a framework that tells them, well, when I reach out and I need something and I'm vulnerable, this isn't safe because it was met with harshness and mistreatment from a caregiver. They also might have experienced, when they were a child, massive amount of critique from their caregivers, never feeling enough, never feeling good enough, So when you naturally in a relationship might have disagreements about something and you vocalize it as the anxious person to the avoidant person interprets that as an attack. They view it as how their parents critique them: unloving, harsh, dangerous, unsafe. So when you love them and when love arrives in their life, that real open love that is honest and truthful and unwavering, it doesn't land as a comfort for them. It actually lands as danger. Their nervous system interprets your tenderness as a threat, affection as exposure, and intimacy as invasion. They pull away not because they don't care, but because they feel as if they don't know how to stay in that moment. For avoidant people, love is a panic. It's a panic for them. True, deep love is a panic. They think, what happens if I let you see the real me? What happens if you love me and I disappoint you? What happens if I need you and you leave? And you will not believe how many times I have met avoidant people or been with avoidant people, and they constantly have talk about or have in the back of their mind, I'm going to disappoint you. I'm not reliable. And you just look at them and think, that's okay. I love you. And for them, it's always a fear that you're going to leave when you see the real them. So they build walls, they build routines, they build control. They like to have things in their life that they control, friendships in their life that aren't as deep, relationships that don't get deep and intimate and personal like that, or relationships with people that don't care enough to call them out when their behavior hurts them. They'll build that into their life, and they build really high internal walls, but walls that they hope that someone would care enough to actually climb or to help pull down. And I once told someone with an avoidant attachment style that I loved them. And when I said I loved them fully, openly, without any conditions to it. I just loved them. And they didn't believe me. And they thought I was saying it out of pity, out of loneliness, out of fantasy, that it couldn't be true, and they couldn't hold it, and they couldn't trust that the love I was saying that I had for them was. At that time, looking back, it frustrated me massively. I thought to myself, how can you not see how much I love you? How can you not feel how real this love and this relationship is? But now, on reflection, I just feel really sad, because I realize how painful it must be to be on the other side of that, to live in a world where genuine love will pass you by because it doesn't feel believable. The safety that someone's offering you feels suspicious, and that tenderness and intimacy feels like a trap. When I think of them now, I don't think about or feel anger. I actually feel a very deep sense of compassion, and I wish I knew then what I knew now. Because in reality, they weren't rejecting me or the love, they were rejecting the fear that the love I had and the relationship would destroy them. Avoidance love in pauses and in small gestures, in the moments where they can say, I'm here, even if I don't know how to show you I'm here. And sometimes that is the hardest thing to accept when you're an anxious person, that their love might not look like yours. For you as an anxious person, you crave that reassurance, so it looks like you asking them or trying to initiate conversation where you just need them to say, I love you, I'm not going anywhere. But for the avoidant person, they can't provide that sense, because part of their framework is to go ghost. And as an anxious person, an anxiously attached person, that is very difficult to deal with and navigate. But for the avoidant, for them, the love ultimately is learning how to stay, and learning that love and closeness doesn't have to consume, learning that love doesn't have to mean losing control. And I wish for every avoidant person that they get to a point of learning that the person who loves you the most in this life will be someone who's open and honest with you, who cares enough to point out things to you. But that doesn't mean that it's fearful, that it's unsafe. Actually, it's probably the safest you should be with somebody who tells you the honest truth about yourself, even in the hardest moments, because they will tell you and be honest with you and still be there for you. Anxious people never go away. Anxiously attached people never stop loving. We love to the ends of the earth. We love until it hurts us. So avoidance, I would urge you to understand us anxious attachment people as the ultimate unwavering love. But there will come a point, avoidance, where if you push the anxiously attachment person too far, they will have to choose themselves. Anxiously attachment person with self-awareness, enough self-awareness, will go, I can't do this anymore. I can't fight every day for you to understand that I love you and that I need reassurance from you and that your silence makes me feel unlovable, unworthy. They will have to choose to walk away one day. And thus we enter what I have deemed the anxious avoidant loop. I don't know if researchers have called it this, but I'm calling this. So if you ever hear or read a paper that says that, just know, coined by Ryan Alves Brown. Thank you. But here's the thing about the anxious avoidant loop. It's not just frustrating to be in. It's fucking painful. Anxious and avoidant people will always find each other because we reenact each other's old childhood wounds. I chase because I feel abandonment. I fear abandonment. I don't want to be left. I don't want to be left behind. The avoidant retreats because they don't want to be consumed. They don't want to be vulnerable. They don't want to be seen. And the more I reach out as the anxious person, which we do, is the more that the avoidant person pulls away. The more you try and contact the avoidant and tell them and try and talk as the anxious person, which is what we want to do. We want to have open lines of communication. The avoidant person is going, oh my God, what the hell is this? And they're running to Timbuktu. And you as the anxious person are sitting there thinking, I just want to talk because I love you and I want to get this sorted. And the avoidant person's thinking, this person hates me and I'm not showing up for them the way that I need to show up for them. So the best thing I can do is a retreat. It then becomes a dance of fear between the two of you. One of us is running towards the other person and the other one is running away. And in my head, I just see a scene of a horror movie, like a Freddy Krueger's Jeepers Creepers type thing. I'm running after you and you're running away from me. And when the avoidant disappears, when the texts slow down, the phone calls stop, when the silence stretches out, it doesn't just hurt the avoidant. It becomes the anxious person's deepest worries. The distance the avoidance creates for themselves to have a safe base, then to the anxious person is a confirmation that they're too much. The silence, the ghosting of the avoidant says to the anxious person, you're unworthy of love, you're undeserving, you don't need this. And even if the avoidant never means to say any of this in any of their behaviors, their withdrawal for the anxiously attached person becomes proof that they were never lovable to begin with. And that is what breaks you the most. It's not just the loss of someone you love, but it's the story you start to tell yourself in your head about why. I'm unlovable. I was undeserving. They could never be with me. Everyone always leaves me. Becomes the anxious person's narrative in their head. And that loop, that loop is so hard to get out of. The avoidant, on the other hand, often interprets this closeness and this running towards as control, as a vulnerability, as danger. They view it as the anxious person trying to control them, trying to control the situation, even though that's not the anxious person's intentions. So when the avoidant feels that the love is getting too warm, too real, that this could be something real for them, this could be a ride or die, end all type of love, that true love story, they run away. And it's not because they want to hurt you as the anxiously attached person, but it's because this whole feeling of having a safe, calm love, a love where you could see yourself growing with that other person, is unfamiliar for someone who has grown up in so much disruption and who has been seen to be critiqued their whole life by people who are supposed to love them the most, their primary caregivers, right? And I get that, I really do. I have been the one to run at times. I've been the one to ghost. I've been the one to not be able to hold the ideal of love in my head. because I haven't learnt to hold it myself. But now I understand, as the anxiously attached person, how much damage that can do in a relationship on the other side. As somebody who has experienced someone running, has experienced someone withdrawing, has experienced the silence, what that does to you as the anxious person, it kills you inside. It kills your sense of ability to want to love, to expand, to grow in love, to feel that love feels safe. It becomes confirmation bias. It becomes cyclical to you. You're then like, see, this is why everybody leaves, and you're stuck in that same loop again and again and again. No matter how many people you meet, you can never move from anxious to secure. So now I try and hold both truths in my hands. I try and say that my feelings are valid as the anxiously attached person, but the fear that the avoidant person fears, the fear that they're feeling, is very real. But I deserve consistency and they deserve compassion. And sometimes that can look like loving them from afar. Sometimes that can mean completely walking away with softness and not resentment. But because once you understand someone's wounds, you stop turning them into a villain in your head. No matter what they do, they're never the villain. You can't paint them in angry light no matter what they do and what they say. Once you understand the battles, the childhood, the narratives they're dealing with in their brain, you start to see them as mirrors and even teachers and maybe lessons even. And I genuinely hope one day that avoidants find a love that makes them feel safe enough to stay. A love that doesn't scare them, and a love that whispers to them, you don't have to run anymore. So as the anxious attachment person, what do we do? For me, I guess we name it, we honor it, and we stop gaslighting ourselves into silence. Healing for us doesn't mean becoming less sensitive. It's about learning how to hold our sensitivity with care. I've started asking, is this person safe for my nervous system? Do they respond with warmth or withdrawal? Do I feel seen or do I feel small? I've learned to pause before chasing and to take a breath before texting, to remind myself that I'm worthy of love that doesn't feel like a punishment, and I'm worthy of a love that stays. Healing is a really slow process, and it's awkward, and it's full of relapses and revelations, and sometimes I will still spiral. No matter how much counseling I have, I will still spiral, and sometimes I will still over explain, and sometimes I will still cry over someone who couldn't hold me or my love. But I am learning every day to hold myself and to soothe that inner child, to remind my inner child that she's not too much and she doesn't have to beg for love or earn safety from anyone. I'm learning to love people without losing myself, love without performing, and to love without shrinking myself. And it is not perfect, but it's real, and that is enough. And maybe that's what healing really means. Not to be fixed, but to be aware, gentle, grounded, and choosing differently next time. Because as Olivia Dean has said, love is never wasted when it's shared. And if you're still listening to this and you ever felt like your feelings were too loud, too needy, too much, I want you to know you're not too much. You're asking for connection in a world that has taught you to settle for crumbs. You deserve love that doesn't disappear when you speak. You deserve softness, safety, and someone who doesn't flinch when you feel. You deserve to be held, not just tolerated. You deserve to be chosen, not just chased. You deserve to be loved, not just survived. This is your reminder that healing doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop apologizing for it. So good night, beloved. I'll be here next week, still healing, still feeling. And this is Voicemail Has Been Emotionally Compromised.